Homeowners associations, commonly referred to as HOAs, play a pivotal role in shaping community living across various neighborhoods. These organizations are typically formed and a group of homeowners seeks to maintain property values and create a cohesive living environment. By establishing rules and guidelines, HOAs help ensure that communities remain attractive and functional. Residents agree to adhere to specific regulations, which can encompass everything from architectural guidelines to restrictions on landscaping, paint colors, and even vehicle parking. At the heart of an HOA's purpose is its mandate to manage communal areas such as parks, clubhouses, and swimming pools. The association often oversees maintenance duties, ensuring that facilities are clean and well kept, thereby enhancing residents' quality of life and encouraging community interactions. Homeowners contribute to this collective effort by paying monthly or annual dues that fund these activities. In essence, one might say that an HOA acts as a governing body dedicated to maintaining both the aesthetic integrity of the neighborhood and fostering a sense of community involvement among residents. However, while the intent behind HOAs can appeal to many homeowners looking for organized living environments, the execution can often lead to disputes and conflicts. As rules are drafted to maintain order, some residents may find them too stringent or intrusive. Issues can arise when the board of directors, composed of elected residents, enforces these rules without considering individual circumstances or the evolving needs of the community. This power dynamic can breed resentment and frustration among those who feel marginalized by the very rules designed to protect their interests. Moreover, conflicts can escalate because HOAs typically have significant authority backed by legal agreements homeowners sign upon purchasing their property. They may impose fines for rule violations or initiate legal proceedings against non-compliant residents. Such measures often provoke anger among homeowners who initially viewed the HOA as a support system for their neighborhood. As communities grow increasingly diverse in opinions and lifestyles, tensions within HOAs can mount significantly. While some members advocate for strict adherence to rules for maintaining property values, others argue for more leniency in response to changing circumstances or personal situations, such as financial hardships or family emergencies. This divergence presents challenges in reaching consensus on policies that affect all members. Consequently, an ongoing battle can unfold within an HOA when voices rise against what is perceived as overreach by its governing body. In many cases, disgruntled homeowners begin to share grievances among themselves, forming alliances that challenge existing norms and implement changes in how the association operates. This complex relationship between homeowners and their associations sets the stage for the unfolding narrative of conflict, a tale marked by struggle for autonomy against bureaucratic governance, providing fertile ground for our story on how one community ultimately turns the tide against its HOA. In a cozy suburb known as Maplewood Estates, the HOA had long maintained a reputation as a stabilizing force within the community. Established over 2 decades prior, it was initially successful in ensuring that the neighborhood flourished, with family-friendly events like summer barbecues and seasonal decorations inspiring camaraderie among residents. However, recent changes began to unravel this harmony. The board, composed of several long-standing members devoted to preserving the status quo, had recently undergone a shift with fresh faces eager to enforce stricter governance. Instead of fostering inclusivity, the new board embraced an uptight interpretation of community rules, citing a need for enhanced aesthetic integrity and property value preservation. This led to growing tensions among residents who felt increasingly stifled by regulations regarding lawn upkeep, approved paint colors, and even holiday decorations. Several controversial policy changes were implemented with little notice or resident input. For instance, rules limiting the height of fences and even the type of outdoor furniture sparked complaints. A newly enforced clause mandated that all front yards be free of personal items, a restriction that particularly frustrated parents who wanted their children's toys to remain visible during playtime. As these alterations took effect, disenfranchised homeowners voiced their concerns during HOA meetings, but were often met with dismissive replies from board members who prioritized adherence to rules over community sentiments. The escalating conflict gained further traction when notices began appearing in mailboxes, alerts about rising fees and fines for perceived infractions. Some families suddenly found themselves owing substantial amounts for what they deemed harmless violations. Community meetings turned from friendly gatherings into heated debates, with residents passionately challenging the legitimacy of the board's decisions. As feelings intensified, friendships long cherished began to unravel, sides were being taken and allegiances forged based on differing views about property rights versus community standards. Rumors circulated about one homeowner facing foreclosure due to mounting fines, a situation that prompted outcry among those who valued compassion over strict rule enforcement. This incident became a catalyst for resistance within the community. More residents started discussing forming a coalition aimed at advocating for their rights, vowing to reclaim agency over their homes and lives. Amidst social media channels buzzing with discontent and organizing efforts gaining momentum beyond informal gatherings, homeowners connected online to share strategies for addressing the HOA's governance. The dialogue shifted from private complaints to collective action as more individuals recognized their struggle was not isolated. It echoed throughout Maplewood Estates, signaling a communal desire for change against what many labeled as an oppressive regime dressed in good intentions. This brewing discord introduced an electrifying dynamic in which residents began looking at their authority not just as something to endure but as something they could challenge directly, a sentiment poised to ignite significant upheaval in the coming saga between Maplewood Estates homeowners and their governing body. As the discontent among residents in Maplewood Estates grew, the calls for change transformed into a tangible movement of pushback against the HOA's oppressive policies. Residents began documenting their frustrations, sharing personal testimonies during community gatherings and through social media platforms that had become their lifeline for communication and solidarity. Sarah Thompson, a single mother of 3, stood before her neighbors during a contentious HOA meeting to voice her concerns about the newly enforced yard regulations. "I'm just trying to create a welcoming home for my kids," she stated passionately. "But now I'm being penalized for having their toys in the yard or a colorful garden. It feels like our individuality is being stripped away." Her words struck a chord with many residents who felt similarly constrained by rigid rules that dictated not only aesthetics but also how families could enjoy their homes. As more testimonies poured in, it became clear that the pushback was not solely fueled by personal preferences, but also by financial hardship. Mark and Jenna Reyes faced increasing fines for what the board deemed unapproved landscaping when they planted sunflowers to attract pollinators. "We didn't think twice about planting flowers that bring life to our neighborhood," Mark asserted, frustration etched on his face. "Now we're being told to pay fines for trying to do something good. It's absurd." Inspired by these grievances, neighbors rallied together to form informal meetings, where they compiled a list of grievances against the board. Andrew Parker, a retired lawyer living in the community, volunteered to lead the charge. He spoke about the legalities surrounding HOA governance and residents' rights, stating, "We have a voice, and it's time to use it. We are homeowners. We need to remind them that this is our community, and we have every right to make decisions that impact our own lives." Residents began strategizing how to confront the board effectively. They created petitions demanding transparency and more inclusive decision-making processes within the HOA. In doing so, they aimed to dismantle the perception that the board ruled with an iron fist. As tensions escalated, some residents reached out to local news outlets for coverage, hoping to shine a light on their struggle as a fight for basic rights. Coverage of their plight soon emerged, highlighting not only personal narratives but also showcasing the rising collective consciousness among residents who refused to let their rights be trampled upon. The social fabric of Maplewood Estates transformed from passive resignation into active resistance as homeowners recognized their strength in numbers. Armed with testimonies and solidarity, they prepared for the next HOA meeting, an opportunity to confront their governing body not just as individuals but as a united front. The anticipation hung heavy in the air, hinting at imminent confrontation, a moment where voices would rise up against oppression in pursuit of reclaiming their collective rights. With every passing day, it became clearer that this journey was about more than saving a few dollars or enforcing personal preference. This was about standing firm against an authority that had begun to forget its purpose in the community. As the movement against the Maplewood Estates HOA gained momentum, it became evident that confronting board policies would not merely involve community meetings and petitions. Residents knew they might have to navigate legal battles as well. Inspired by their growing sense of empowerment, several homeowners sought guidance on possible legal avenues to challenge the unjust regulations inflicted upon them. Local attorney Andrew Parker, who had already emerged as a leader among the residents, decided to take action by focusing his efforts on a particularly egregious policy requiring strict conformity to outdated landscaping rules. He believed this regulation violated homeowners' rights and could be deemed unenforceable in court. With the support of a dedicated group of residents, Andrew filed an official complaint against the HOA, requesting a review and re-evaluation of these rules based on fairness and reasonableness. Word quickly spread through Maplewood Estates about Andrew's brave stance. This lit a spark among other frustrated residents, leading to further coordination for potential legal challenges. Carolyn Jenkins, a retired teacher whose once vibrant garden had been targeted by the board, joined forces with Andrew. Her story resonated deeply with many. During her testimony at a packed community meeting, she poignantly expressed that our homes are our expression, and she would fight to protect that freedom. As part of their strategy, several residents pooled resources to fund legal representation while others initiated fundraising efforts within the community. This collaboration made it possible for them to formally challenge fines that had papered their mailboxes, fines imposed not just for aesthetic violations but also for discrepancies that some felt were trivial or completely arbitrary. Their first significant court appearance came swiftly thereafter. On the day of the hearing, tension crackled in the courtroom as both sides presented their arguments. The HOA's attorney argued presentation focused on maintaining property values through enforced compliance, citing bylaws established years ago when neighborhood aesthetics likely appeared more uniform. In contrast, Andrew eloquently argued that changes in personal circumstances and tastes over time necessitated flexibility rather than rigidity, a vital adaptation for modern communities. Judge Roberts listened intently before ultimately delivering his decision. He ruled in favor of renegotiating the regulations deemed overly restrictive while underscoring the need for HOAs to adapt governance structures that reflect community interests. Victory cascaded through Maplewood Estates as word spread. Residents celebrated in backyards, hosting impromptu gatherings to applaud togetherness against bureaucratic oppression. However, this victory stirred a counterreaction from some HOA members who felt threatened by the shifting power dynamics. The board met shortly after, vowing to appeal certain aspects of the judge's ruling while potentially drafting new bylaws aimed at re-establishing control. As tensions flared between warring factions within governance and resident movements advocating for change flourished, it became clear that what began as localized challenges were evolving into pivotal points in establishing homeowners' rights everywhere like Maplewood Estates, a battle echoing throughout neighborhoods far beyond their own. In the wake of their recent legal victory, residents of Maplewood Estates felt a renewed sense of empowerment that drove them to organize more formally against the HOA's restrictive practices. Recognizing the power of collective action, they began forming coalitions, rallying neighbors who shared similar frustrations and grievances. The community transformed into a hub of activity, with discussions bubbling up in backyards and at local coffee shops as homeowners strategized their next moves. At the forefront of these efforts was Andrew Parker, who continued to guide residents in navigating their newfound momentum. Together, they established a community group called Maplewood United, dedicated to fostering transparency and collaboration between residents and the HOA. Through flyers distributed around the neighborhood and announcements on social media platforms, they invited all interested homeowners to an inaugural meeting at the local community center. The turnout exceeded expectations, families packed into the room, bringing stories of hardship and discontent with past board decisions. There was an infectious energy in the air as residents shared their experiences, from excessive fines to restrictions that hindered their ability to enjoy their homes. This meeting crystallized a sense of solidarity that bound them together. They were no longer isolated voices but rather a united front advocating for meaningful change. Fueled by their shared outrage, members brainstormed various strategies to amplify their message. They decided on organizing a series of peaceful rallies outside the HOA office, signaling their determination not only to be heard but to reclaim ownership over their community governance. Colorful signs expressing slogans like "Our Homes, Our Rights," and "Together We Rise," adorned yards across Maplewood Estates as excitement brewed in anticipation of these events. As part of their campaign, they also initiated an online petition aimed at gathering signatures from all homeowners in support of new bylaws that would foster fair representation on the board. This digital strategy proved effective. It quickly garnered hundreds of signatures as neighbors rallied behind each other's causes. The rallies themselves became significant events. The first took place on a sunny Saturday afternoon and attracted not just residents but local media attention as well. Homeowners stood shoulder to shoulder, chanting slogans and sharing testimonials about how oppressive policies had impacted their lives. Local journalists captured images and interviews, which helped spread awareness beyond just Maplewood Estates. As news coverage increased, neighboring communities began taking notice. Soon enough, Maplewood United found itself connecting with similar groups in adjacent neighborhoods facing comparable challenges with their own HOAs. This interconnectedness illustrated how widespread the struggle for homeowner rights truly was, a movement that transcended boundaries across many neighborhoods. Encouraged by this growing network of support, residents realized they could leverage collective action not just for immediate changes but also for long-term reforms within HOA governance structures throughout the region. Each rally brought fresh energy and commitment. Each signature added weight to their cause as they continued challenging an authority set on enforcing outdated regulations while inspiring others along the way. What started as grievances against strict policies evolved into a powerful coalition advocating for transparency, inclusivity, and ultimately reshaping what it meant to live in community harmony, showing that when united for a common purpose, residents can transform frustration into formidable strength against bureaucratic indifference. As the momentum of Maplewood United continued to grow, social media emerged as an essential tool for organizing, mobilizing, and amplifying the homeowners' collective experience. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter transformed from casual social networking sites into vital channels for community engagement and awareness. Residents quickly recognized the power of these tools to inform one another and rally support without the constraints of traditional communication methods. It began with a grassroots Facebook group called Maplewood Voices, which provided a dedicated space for residents to share stories about their experiences with the HOA. Within days, the group exploded in popularity, with hundreds of residents joining to exchange information about fines received, oppressive policies enforced by the board, and local events designed to strategize their next steps. Homeowners shared photos of intimidating HOA notices cluttering their mailboxes, illustrating the urgency felt within the community. This visual storytelling engaged those who might have felt hesitant to confront the authority themselves. The community's use of hashtags like #MaplewoodUnited and #HomeownersRights soon began trending locally, attracting attention not only from residents but also from journalists looking to cover stories impacting neighborhoods across the region. Social media posts containing powerful testimonials reached far beyond Maplewood Estates. They resonated with many other homeowners facing similar challenges elsewhere. Encouraged by this new level of visibility, members organized live-streamed events, town hall-style meetings where residents could voice concerns while addressing both members of Maplewood United and representatives from the HOA. These real-time discussions facilitated transparency, allowing participants who watched online to engage through comments or questions. They found it invaluable to witness solidarity in action, bearing testament to a community standing tall against perceived injustices. As word spread more widely, neighboring groups began reaching out via social media, wanting to align efforts or share strategies that had worked in their own battles against restrictive HOA policies. The digital space forged alliances that were previously unimaginable. Participants swapped success stories and advice on filing complaints or appealing fines. Each shared experience fostered an understanding that they were not alone in their fight, rather, part of a larger movement that transcended boundaries imposed by individual neighborhoods. Additionally, social media became crucibles for mobilization. Residents used it to announce upcoming rallies and petition drives that drew attention from local officials and media alike. Photos flooded timelines depicting enthusiastic crowds gathered outside the HOA office, collectively chanting slogans demanding respect for their rights. The increased awareness generated by social media allowed them to pull in community allies. Neighbors from adjacent areas who had faced similar struggles became invigorated by Maplewood Estates' determination. In utilizing these digital platforms, homeowners transformed their grievances into powerful narratives that invoked empathy and gained traction beyond their immediate surroundings. As traditional channels often failed them, social media carved out a new path for collaboration that expanded rapidly, a crucial support system in which voices once deemed quiet became passionate advocates for change. Ultimately, this digital revolution strengthened Maplewood United's mission by fostering connections with countless supporters both near and far. Through hashtags and shared posts, they not only propelled their movement forward but also shifted the conversation around HOAs throughout the region, a ripple effect initiated by active participation in a dynamic online community committed to fighting against unjust governance practices. The pivotal moment in the Maplewood Estates residents' struggle against their HOA arrived unexpectedly but proved to be a watershed in their battle for homeowner rights. After months of tireless advocacy, strategic organization, and numerous public demonstrations, the coalition known as Maplewood United prepared for an essential HOA meeting that would address the proposed changes to restrictive regulations. On that fateful evening, anticipation filled the air, as homeowners gathered not just to express their grievances but also to present a united front in a way they had never done before. Weeks of planning culminated in this single meeting, a platform for both passionate advocates and residents who had felt silenced until now. Fueled by the camaraderie developed through social media campaigns and previous rallies, homeowners sought to challenge the board's authority directly and ask for accountability regarding their stringent policies. Andrew Parker led the charge, presenting a comprehensive report detailing the adverse impacts of these rules on their quality of life and property values. A significant turning point occurred when Andrew introduced a guest speaker, a legal expert specializing in homeowners' rights, who had previously worked on cases that influenced similar HOA disputes in neighboring communities. With clarity and conviction, he outlined legal precedents supporting homeowner flexibility in property management. His arguments resonated deeply with those in attendance, lending considerable weight to their cause and reminding them that they were not simply fighting for cosmetic changes but also for fundamental rights. As each resident took turns sharing personal stories about unjust fines or excessive restrictions, the atmosphere shifted dramatically within the room. Tears were shed as frustrated parents recounted how strict rules had impacted their children's ability to play freely, or how financial burdens from fines had caused emotional distress in families trying to make ends meet. The genuine expression of concern stemmed from everyday life experiences that had been sidelined by the board's focus on conformity. Then came the transformative moment. Halfway through the meeting, Andrew proposed an official resolution demanding that the board review and amend several key regulations deemed oppressive and unreasonably enforced. This motion, if passed, would not only signal a request for change but also require the board to engage with residents meaningfully moving forward. Tension laced through the air as board members huddled together to discuss their position. After what felt like an eternity, the board reconvened and President Tom Sullivan took his place at the mic. In a surprising turn, he conveyed an openness to discuss potential amendments, acknowledging the mounting frustrations voiced by residents. While promises weren't made lightly, it marked a break from past rigidity and offered hope that cooperation could replace animosity. Cheers erupted from the crowd, stirring raw emotions as neighbors embraced one another in celebration. It wasn't just a victory over rules, it symbolized community resilience and solidarity against an authoritarian governance structure. The energy was electric, unity surged through every corner of Maplewood Estates. This significant turning point prompted many residents who had been skeptical to fully embrace Maplewood United's mission, knowing that the path forward involved collective effort along with renewed commitments toward active participation within their governing body. The meeting concluded not only with a commitment to renegotiate certain policies but also forged a deeper connection among neighbors determined to maintain their agency over the community they loved. From that day forward, Maplewood Estates evolved into a powerful emblem of grassroots activism, a living testament to what tenacity can achieve when individuals bring their voices together against oppressive systems. In the aftermath of their hard-fought victory, the atmosphere in Maplewood Estates shifted dramatically. The community exuded a newfound sense of hope and empowerment as residents began to realize the implications of their achievements. The moment they had collectively awaited had finally arrived, a commitment from the HOA to review and amend its restrictive policies, signaling a potential transformation in governance that resonated deeply with all homeowners. With the board's promise to engage more transparently, residents felt validated in their efforts. It was as if a weight had been lifted, no longer did they feel like voiceless subjects under an overbearing regime. Instead, they were active participants in shaping the policies that governed their lives. For many, this victory emboldened a sense of agency that encouraged them to participate more actively in community events and discussions. Neighbors who once hesitated to speak up now approached HOA meetings with confidence, recognizing that their voices could indeed influence change. The board's response also sparked a re-evaluation of internal governance structures. In an effort to foster trust and collaboration, the board decided to create a new advisory committee composed of resident representatives. This committee was tasked with evaluating proposed policies before implementation, ensuring that homeowner concerns would be heard prior to decisions being made. This shift from a top-down approach toward one of inclusivity allowed for diverse perspectives to be considered, promoting a healthier community dynamic. As these changes took root, morale soared throughout Maplewood Estates. Residents began organizing regular neighborhood gatherings, where families shared meals and exchanged ideas about enhancing community life. Block parties became commonplace as residents sought opportunities to connect beyond their daily routines. These social events not only fortified bonds among neighbors but also fueled enthusiasm for ongoing advocacy efforts. Simultaneously, the success of Maplewood United inspired neighboring communities grappling with similar HOA challenges. Stories spread quickly across social media about the achievements in Maplewood Estates, prompting residents from adjacent neighborhoods to reach out for advice on how they could implement similar strategies for change. Informal alliances blossomed across borders. What started as isolated fights against restrictive regulations became part of a larger movement advocating for homeowners' rights throughout the region. While some members of the original HOA board remained resistant to change and felt challenged by this newfound activism, they slowly began adjusting their strategies in response to community feedback. They recognized that continued resistance would only deepen divisions with residents who now stood united in their expectations for fair governance. As months passed since the pivotal meeting that catalyzed this transformation, it became evident that Maplewood Estates was evolving into a model for other communities striving for fairness and accountability in HOA governance. The collective experience reinforced that real change requires courage but is ultimately achievable through collaboration and determination. In the hearts and minds of residents lingered a profound lesson: their voices mattered, and together they could drive meaningful change that reinforced their rights as homeowners while fostering an environment built upon mutual respect and cooperation. From conflict emerged community strength, proving that when individuals unite for a common purpose, they have the power to reshape their destinies in ways previously thought impossible. The experience of Maplewood Estates offers valuable lessons for communities across the nation grappling with similar issues regarding homeowners associations, HOAs. In today's residential landscape, where many live under the governance of HOAs, understanding how to navigate and reshape authority is crucial for fostering a more equitable living environment. The story of Maplewood Estates serves as a guiding example for other communities looking to reclaim their autonomy and enhance civic participation. One significant takeaway from this case is the power of collective action. Residents began by sharing experiences that resonated with their neighbors, creating a strong bond that transformed individual frustrations into a unified voice. This cohesion reminded many about the importance of solidarity when confronted with institutional challenges. Communities facing HOA injustices should consider establishing coalitions similar to Maplewood United, which empowers residents to speak collectively and advocate for change with greater impact than they could achieve individually. Effective communication was another critical element in figuring out their success story. Utilizing social media helped amplify grievances and organize grassroots movements that regionalized concerns into powerful advocacy tools. Sharing stories online formed emotional connections and illuminated issues often overlooked, drawing not only community-wide attention but also interest from neighboring homeowners. For other communities, leveraging digital platforms to spread awareness, engage in discussions, and connect with broader networks can propel movements forward. Additionally, fostering climate transparency between the HOA and residents proved instrumental in Maplewood Estates. As residents demanded accountability and more inclusive processes, the formation of an advisory committee became an avenue for constructive dialogue, one that allowed homeowners to have direct input on decisions affecting their lives. Other communities can implement similar structures or communication channels seeking open feedback from residents, ensuring that all voices resonate within decision-making processes. Furthermore, embedding legal knowledge within grassroots efforts empowered community members. Engaging experts who understand property rights enriches advocacy by presenting informed arguments against unjust policies while also guiding residents on navigating legal frameworks effectively. Educating homeowners about their rights can demystify processes often deemed intimidating and equip them with the tools needed to challenge outdated or unfair regulations confidently. Lastly, the case teaches that long-lasting change takes time and determination. Winning one battle does not guarantee victory over all challenges presented by an HOA governing body. Maintaining momentum through consistent community engagement is essential, keeping conversations alive, organizing regular events, and ensuring ongoing accountability will foster an enduring culture of activism beyond initial victories. In essence, Maplewood Estates epitomizes how collaboration among determined individuals can attract transformative change within encumbering systems like HOAs. As this community has demonstrated, collective resilience fuels meaningful progress, forging paths where homeowner rights are respected while enhancing connections between neighbors bound by shared goals. When facing down oppression in any form, be it through local governance or administrative bodies, the lessons derived from Maplewood Estates stand testament: unity empowers equity, knowledge informs action, communication bridges divides, persistence nurtures change. By applying these insights broadly, other communities can inspire similar movements toward achieving fairness in their neighborhoods. The conflict between the residents of Maplewood Estates and their homeowners association serves as a compelling narrative of community empowerment and resilience in the face of bureaucratic challenges. What began as a struggle against the imposition of strict regulations morphed into a broader movement that underscored the profound power of collective action. The residents' journey revealed not only their frustrations but also their capacity to unite for a common purpose, forging connections that transcended individual grievances. At first, the residents felt stifled by an HOA that had tightened its grip on governance, imposing rules that seemed increasingly disconnected from the very essence of community living. As fines piled up and restrictive policies were enforced without consideration for personal circumstances, discontent brewed. However, this discontent became a catalyst for change when homeowners decided enough was enough. By sharing their stories and pooling resources, they recognized that together they could challenge the status quo. Under the insightful leadership of individuals like attorney Andrew Parker, the residents transitioned from passive acceptance to active resistance. They organized themselves under the banner of Maplewood United, necessitating a shift in how they approached their complaints and demands. The introduction of strategic initiatives, such as grassroots rallies, social media campaigns, and legal challenges, allowed them to express their frustrations while simultaneously empowering one another to continue this fight. One pivotal moment in this saga crystallized their resolve: the significant court ruling mandating the HOA's review of its restrictive policies. This decision did more than just validate their concerns, it ignited a renewed sense of hope within the community. Empowered by this victory, residents began viewing themselves not merely as subjects of governance but as active participants capable of shaping their living environment. The aftermath led to remarkable changes not only in HOA policies but also fostered an atmosphere of greater inclusivity and transparency in governance. The newly formed advisory committee allowed resident voices to be integrated into decision-making processes, reinforcing community members' belief that they had a rightful stake in how their neighborhood was managed. Moreover, morale surged as neighborhoods transformed from isolated islands into interconnected hubs, advocating for fairness and accountability across multiple communities facing similar challenges. Their success became an inspiration, prompting neighboring residents grappling with similar HOA issues to reach out for guidance and support, testament to how empowered citizens can act as catalysts for systemic change well beyond their immediate environment. Ultimately, Maplewood Estates emerged from conflict with valuable lessons about resilience, organization, and solidarity in navigating HOA governance. While this chapter marked an important victory, it also shed light on the ongoing necessity for vigilance within homeowner communities. Change may come through concerted effort and perseverance, but maintaining momentum requires continuous engagement with both neighbors and governing bodies alike. In conclusion, Maplewood Estates stands as a beacon illustrating that ordinary residents can indeed effect substantial transformation when united by shared goals. Their experience emphasizes key themes relevant not only to other communities struggling against restrictive HOAs but also highlights an essential truth: empowered individuals who band together can inspire meaningful progress against bureaucratic indifference while nurturing positive communal bonds along the way. As their story unfolds further into future chapters, Maplewood Estates exemplifies what it truly means to advocate for one's rights while fostering an enduring sense of belonging within a community striving for equitable governance.